Service to Empire takes place between 1939 and 2001. It spans Ghana, West Africa, and Dumfries, Scotland. Scene 1. A street corner in the shadow of Christiansburg, Osu Castle, seat of the Gold Coast, Ghana government. You can hear the Atlantic Ocean crash against the castle ramparts and the background noise of a busy town. We meet Madame Victoria, attractive, self-possessed Iwe woman. Kweku, well-made Ashanti man. The year is 1939.
Madame, how blessed I am to find you are here today.
Thanks be to God. Where are the other 7 boys? Off plotting somewhere, no doubt. Young men today do not know how to treat their elders and betters. Present company accepted, of course.
Madame Victoria, there is a Scots lady who wants you to be designing an outfit for her special party in 2 weeks' time.
Fine, I am too busy.
But it is a very important occasion. She has heard you are the best dressmaker in the whole of the Gold Coast. She has sent me here to seek you this very morning. I cannot return alive without the good news of your participation.
Kweku, you are but a boy. Yet every boy knows when the lioness has an important task, she carries it out herself, the more certain the task be done.
But she would have asked you herself.
But?
The lady is playing tennis this very morning, as she does so all weekdays.
You think yourself a linguist for the white lady now. Take care, Kweku. A cock can break a dozen eggs rooting about in his master's man.
Madame, you do me a disservice. It is because I am wise to the value of cloth. Real silk shanting from China that I'm bearing it to you here. You could manifest a dress that will make all ladies' heads swoon, and business will be good for a long time yet. Your son's school fees will be no burden to you. No burden at all. Go on, let me show you.
Look at this length. Real sea pearls, each one sewn by hand. The envy of the other women when this outfit is worn would put a jackal to shame.
I can tell the lady you say yes to her proposition.
You know me, Kweku, so you know the lady must ask me herself. And in any case, how does she look?
I would say she is handsome.
My horse is handsome. How is she built?
Like a fancy, but taller.
Kweku, if I didn't know your grandmother, I would be sending you home with more than a flea in your ear. It sounds like you're asking me to make mule into antelope or turn bush cat into leopard.
Madame, that is a little unfair. I would say she is a pretty enough woman of her type. A kind-hearted soul.
So what tip do you get for passing me this so-called golden opportunity?
Madame, from you, I seek nothing but your gracious services.
Kweku, what's in it for you?
Her husband. He's a big man in town. I am hoping that one day I can work with his company when I have proved to be diligent, able, and useful. I don't want to work as a castle franquet all my life.
It's position enough for some of us. You are a good boy, Kweku, but you must keep your ear to the ground, for the elephant is moving in the bush. Times will not always be as they are now. Tell your lady to come and see me in my office when her game is over. 2 weeks is no time at all. No time at all.
Certainly, madame.
Scene 2. It is later the same day. The sun is starting to drop from the sky. A large car sits in the courtyard of the castle with Big Man John, a stout, white Scotsman, sitting in the driver's seat. He winds down the window fully and lights a cigarette. Madame Victoria appears carrying the packages of cloth and a neat little crocodile handbag which matches her shoes. Big Man John watches her appreciatively. He revs the engine provocatively.
Hey, you're not afraid of a little roar, are you, madam?
I do not believe we have been introduced, sir.
Touche.
Excuse me, sir. I must be getting home.
Oh, do me the honour of being your chauffeur.
Why?
Don't be shy.
Perhaps the day has been long and your memory is short. I seem to recall saying we have not been introduced.
Aye, it is true. Have the fates no been kind to me, for I have on my side the good fortune of being a messenger this evening. On behalf of my wife.
Your wife, sir, who might she be?
Well, you have in your possession, I believe, some fabric fresh from the arse of some bug or other that will, I have been assured, make a silk purse out of the raw hide of my magisterial wife, Bonnie. And my Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over her spending. Don't send back my Bonnie to me.
So?
Madam Victoria, if I may be so bold, I have been designated your driver for you.
Is that so?
Indeed it is so.
And for why?
That I might whisk you away to Unicrest, my humble hame. We live no far, just here in Christiansburg. I am to deliver you there that you might measure up, side wife. And if you were to decline my request, my life would not be worth living. All the faults in Christendom would rain down upon my already pearl grey head.
A fine head of hair, if I may say so, sir.
Well, flattery will get you everywhere and everything with a man like me. So you think I'm handsome, do you? And me a married man, do you?
Perhaps as a lowly husband, you are ignorant to the fact that your wife was asked to come and see me this afternoon. We natives have lives of our own, you know. We must send word to my family or they will dispatch a search party looking for my corpse.
Well, your word is my command, madam.
Scene 3. A week later. A bar by the roadside between Christiansburg and Tema. Big man John and Madam Victoria are sitting at a corner table. There is a bottle of palm wine on the table and a jug of beer. The music is quiet high life from a radio.
Won't your wife be waiting to feed you when you get home?
Not tonight, Victoria. You know how it is with these European ladies and their business. Monday's the bridge set, Wednesday's the Celtic Ladies Circle, and Thursday night drinks at the Ambassador's Hotel for the Christian Society.
Busy woman.
You could say.
She told me you would be more than happy to take me home after the fitting. So why are we here?
I like kinky.
And palm wine too.
Better than most whiskey.
I had whiskey once, but it burnt my throat.
The best is smooth as silk.
Silk, you say, comes out of a bug's ass, as I recall.
Well remembered.
I should be getting home. You are keeping me from my maternal duties.
Soon. So how was the fitting?
Fine. Your wife will look magnificent at the ball.
Yeah. And you? Will you play Cinderella?
You've lost me.
Madam Victoria raises her glass to Kweku.
Our secret is out now, Mr. John. Kweku works at the castle. He's on very, very good terms with your dear wife. What will she say when she hears you've been fraternizing with native women folk? Heads may turn at the bridge table.
Kweku enters.
Let me introduce Kweku to you, Mr. John. I know how much he admires you and hopes someday to work for you. Perhaps at your fine Kingsway store chemist shop in Jamestown.
It's a pleasure to meet you, son. I hear you take meticulous care of some business for my wife. Will you keep up the good work?
Yes, sir. I am happy to take care of little matters for Mrs. John. Yet I only do so in my capacity as your humble servant. Yes, sir. I would very much like to work amid those enchanting jars and potions at your magnificent emporium.
Well, Kweku, son, you continue to take good care of business and I'll see what I can do. Now, where you go now? And don't trouble us any more for the minute, lad. You can see I'm otherwise engaged. Are you seeing any other gentlemen, Victoria? Are you spoken for?
No one special, Mr. John. Why do you ask?
I think you know, Victoria. I think you know fine well.
You are a married man.
True. It's true enough. But my wife and I have an understanding, if you know what I mean.
I am not sure that I do. In any case, I have never so much as kissed a brownie before.
It would be my pleasure to be the first and the last.
Mr. John, I would like to go home now. My mother will be waiting up for me.
Rising to his feet, big man John draws Madame Victoria up to meet him. They dance to a sentimental early Nat King Cole song playing on the radio. Just the two of them, in the empty bar room, with only one witness, Kweku, and the beating of their hearts for company. Scene 4. A deserted beach at Cape Coast.
You ride well for a woman.
You look good in shorts for a man.
You're cheeky, didn't you?
So, my man John, why have you brought me all the way out here exhausting the horses?
Working at the castle. You know as well as I do that the war isn't getting any quieter. And I was wondering if you would be interested in formalising our rearrangement for the time being, you know, for the foreseeable future.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. John? You being a brony and a married man and all?
Oh, you must have been in love.
And faithful with it.
I told you before. My wife and I have an understanding.
And what will the European ladies say when they come home to find their husbands' lady friends are of a darker hue?
Other men are making arrangements too.
I am wise enough to know that other people's decisions should not influence mine.
But the way you make time to see me, and the fact you introduced me to not only your mother, but your precious son too. These things have given me the impression that you've grown well fond of me, Madame Victoria.
You know I am fond. Very fond of you. I love the reckless way you drive, the depth of your laugh. I even love your characterful popping of eyes when you smile. But, my man John, I am a full-blooded woman. Not a stray dog to be housed at your quarters until your pedigree bitch reinstalls herself.
Oh, Victoria, there's no need to run so far ahead. Times are changing. They're changing all around us. Who knows what the future will reveal when this war is over?
Love is a dangerous territory to be lost in.
I was a Boy Scout. Trust me. My map reading is impeccable.
When I first saw you in the courtyard in Osu, I knew that you had come to claim me.
So you have the gift of second sight as well as beauty, sweetheart?
It is not something to jest about.
Of course not. Can you read palms?
Not that I know of. Why do you ask?
When I was a boy, a long time ago, back in Scotland, my man Dad took me and my brother to the fair in Wigton. There was a rare troop of travelling gypsies. It looked like Arabs to me. And there was this old hag, face looked like tanned hide, and she had holes in her ears and all these trinkets. Now, neither my man Da held with any such thing, believing fortune-telling to be a cardinal sin against God's judgment. So Tom and I, sneaking away for their scrutiny, paid her some pennies to read her palms. She told me my eldest Wayne would rule over a mighty nation where gold drips from under rocks and shoots spring up wherever rain falls.
We must be careful.
Aye, of course. But I've yet to make a woman fall.
I know. Your wife told me.
Really?
There's something I must tell you.
Give me 3 guesses. You've never slept with a white man before.
That's true enough.
You've never slept with any man since your child, sire.
Before, no since.
Ah, got it in two.
No, big man. That is not the point.
So what is?
I think I'm falling in love with you.
Let me let you into a secret, Victoria. I know I love you.
Scene 5. A pharmacy in the shadow of Jamestown Prison. You can hear the Atlantic Ocean crash against the castle ramparts and the background noise of a busy town. The year is 1947.
For the love of Jesus, Madame Victoria, get out of here before Big Man John comes back from his lunch.
It sounds like you are running the show, Kweku. How did Big Man John ever do without you? You don't mind if I take a load off my feet? It's been a long walk for us both.
Woman, can't you see I'm a busy man? Big Man John likes his shop to look like a palace.
Madame Victoria takes the baby off her back and cradles it on her knee. The steady hum of the ceiling fan lulls mother and child to sleep. The tinkle of the door chime wakes neither of them.
Hey, laddie. My bonny laddie.
Kweku turns round so fast at the sound of Bonnie's voice that he scatters a pile of pillboxes across his just tidied counter. He tries to keep his eyes off the sleepers in the corner, but throughout the conversation we see his gaze dart back and forth from Bonnie to Madame Victoria and the baby.
Well, looks like there's not much trade being done in these parts today, Kweku.
Good afternoon, Mrs. John. Is there anything I can do for you?
No, I just popped in on my way to play poker. Why Mrs. Anderson lives so far out, I'll never know. I suppose as her husband seems to be running the prison now, there is some logic to it. Why anyone would voluntarily want to live in the shadow of that damnable place when you could live with the rest of us in Christiansburg, I'll never understand. Does she come here often?
No. Never. No, she never comes here, madam. I swear it's on the Holy Bible.
That's odd, Kweku. She always seems to have some complaint or another. If it's not her tennis elbow, then it's her waterworks.
Kweku tries to distract her attention by rearranging the scattered pills extravagantly.
I thought Mr. John was always prescribing her with something or other. He told me Mrs. Anderson was a profit centre on legs.
Ah, Mrs. Anderson. Yes, ma'am. She's often coming in here. She sits uncomfortably on that chair over there and takes plenty of time to tell her woes to Big Man John. Every day she goes back home without fail, and a big order goes to her house. Yes, Miss Anderson certainly is a very, very good customer at our shop.
Kweku, you just said she never comes here.
Oh, my mistake.
You'll never persuade the big man to have you trained up as a dispensing chemist if you are so muddle-headed, Kweku. My husband likes everything to be just so.
Just so, ma'am. Indeed. Just so.
This shop is just as I remember it. Nothing seems to have changed in all the years I've been away. The war does not seem to have touched the Gold Coast at all. Excepting, of course, that the natives are more restless than ever, or so it seems.
Idle talk of independence?
Idle talks cost lives, Kweku. That's what we learnt well enough at home in the war.
Yes, ma'am.
So, where are you hiding my husband?
Kweku and Bonnie both turn round suddenly to see Big Man John framed in the doorway.
I'm just here, sweetheart.
Oh, hello, darling.
And what brings you out here to my humble bazaar?
Mrs. John is on her way to Miss Anderson's to play poker, sir.
Did I ask you, boy?
No, sir.
Why didn't you offer the lady a seat or something cooling to drink? Didn't you realise she would have been hot having cycled all the way over here? Have you learned nothing after all this time? Nigh on 7 goddamn years you've worked here.
There's no need to be so gurnly, darling. Don't fret, Kweku. Someone's rattled his cage today is all. He's probably hungry.
Kweku frantically tries to draw Big Man John's attention to the sleeping presence of Madame Victoria and the baby without alerting Bonnie, but to no avail.
Lazy. That's this boy's only complaint.
Darling, I was just curious. I popped in at the house to change after tennis, and I was surprised when the houseboy told me that you hadn't come home for lunch. There's nothing wrong, is there?
Look, Bonnie, why should there be anything wrong? While you were away, I get out of the habit of always coming home for lunch. Sometimes I just meet one of the chaps for a beer and a sandwich at the Turf Club or the Ambassadors. There's nothing sinister about that now, is there?
No, of course not. It's not as if we live in each other's pockets after all.
Do you want me to run you over to the Andersons, please?
No, I'll be fine. Betty will give me a lift back home later anyway. She'll eat with me. And then it's over to the Celtic Ladies' Circle. I must say, everything seems to be running just like it ever was. Funny chat with the war and all. Seems almost like we women never were away.
Suddenly the baby starts to cry. Madame Victoria immediately wakes up unsure of quite where she is. She is startled to see the motley crew now assembled. Bonnie, unawares, goes up to the pair. Patronisingly, she pats the woman's hair and nips the baby's cheek. She picks some silver out of her purse and tucks it into the baby's shawl.
Come along now, chaps. Your customers await. This Black Madonna and child have been asleep in that chair ever since I came in the door. Dead to the world. Oh well. I should be going and let you get back to your work. I don't want to be late. That wouldn't do at all. There's money at stake and they'll run out of gin if Betty gets to be bartender before I get there.
Well, have a G&T for me.
Got to do our duty for good King George. Keep the quinine quotient up. Running free as the empire in our loyal bloodstreams. Rile those damn mosquitoes, just like the Huns, eh?
See you later, sweetheart. And don't wait up for me. Got a lot of paperwork to do, end of the financial year and all that. I'd better come back here after the lodge meeting tonight. Tatty, bye.
Bye-bye. I'll see you soon. Catch a monkey, gaze at the moon.
Big Man John sees his wife to the door. They extravagantly blow each other kisses. Then he nonchalantly makes his way out to the back of the shop, shouting to Kweku through the doorway.
Well, Kweku, how is trade?
Quiet, sir. Sir, you have a visitor, sir. A lady here to see you, sir. A local lady here to see you, sir. A local lady here to see you, sir.
Ha! Another mistake on your part, Mr. Clever Dick Ashanti man. Visitors, Kweku. Visitors, plural. The big man won't be happy if he sees you cannot even count to 2 now, will he?
Sir, can I please be excused? The delivery boy has not come and we have an important package to go to the hospital right away.
Sure, but don't be long. Corley boo and right back. I have someone to see again later.
I bet you do, mister.
Madame Victoria puts the baby to her breast and lets it suckle. She calmly waits for Big Man John to appear. When he does, he has clearly forgotten that he has a potential customer waiting.
So, how can I help you? Have you been sent to get something for the baby? Your free sample of national dried milk.
God gave me milk aplenty in my breast for my little John John. I need no white man substitute. Thank you very much all the same, my man John. Big Man John, you are looking very well. Where's such a fine figure of a man been hiding himself these past 12 moons? Under a cocoa bush.
It's busy time of the year in this trade, Victoria. You should know that by now.
12 moons is near a full year.
So how have you been?
Well, let's just say it's certainly been busy at the Coloured Women's Maternity Hospital. That's for true.
Why have you come here, Victoria? If it's a prescription, surely Quaco could have dealt with your needs. It'd have passed on any message. You know we don't have secrets. I trust him implicitly in matters of the heart.
Monkey don't have flea on his back and pick himself in these parts then.
Don't bore me with proverbs, Victoria.
Mighty sorry to offend your fragile foreigner mentality.
Just call a spade a spade.
Don't swap me with cliches, Mr. Big Man of the Empire. I have a good colonial education too, you know.
So how may I be of service, ma'am?
You didn't reply to any of my messages.
I've been busy.
Nor the letters I sent from home.
Losing your hearing, woman.
The telegram I sent the minute your firstborn son breathed air.
I've been busy, I tell you.
Busy with your wife being back.
Certainly. You could see that for yourself. I must say that in the circumstances, you carried yourself very well. Thank you for not embarrassing her.
Embarrassing her? My man John, you do have an eloquent way with words. It must be that fine Scot tongue you're always boasting of.
Cut to the chase, our Kwaku will be back, and you'll have to speak in front of him anyway. Not that it will bother me. Look, I could give you something out of the till here and now to tide you over until you get back to work, Victoria. But don't kid yourself that it means I am accepting any responsibility for your predicament. Any help I give you now is just the act of a friend. For all time's sake, you know how it is now, Victoria.
Big Man John goes over to the till. We hear its brittle ring as it opens.
There is nothing you can get out of me by blackmail or extortion, Victoria. Forget about that notion, sweetheart. If it's money to keep quiet you want, you can go to blazes.
Look, I know you've not just been busy with your wife.
What is the actual point of this conversation?
John! He is the point of this conversation. Why don't you ask after him, my man John?
How do I even know that he is
You
mine?
know in your heart that he's yours. I've never been with any other man since you.
I don't know anything for certain. How can you prove it?
Can't prove it now, big man John. But when he grows into a man, the world will be seeing it. He's already got your eyes.
My wife and I don't have any children. Remember? Don't you understand what that means, Victoria? We tried for years at the start of our marriage, but to no avail. That baby, fair though he may be, is not my flesh and blood.
So you got to carry your name, my man John.
Look, I concede it before you. I only slept with other women in my own social circle. But you've got to realise that none of them ever fell pregnant either.
I hear white ladies take precautions.
It looks like you should have taken some yourself.
You never offered me none. Just hold him and you'll realize the truth. Feel the strong beat of his heart. It pounds just like a lion. God sent him here to us. The ancestors will take care of him and us. John, there's no need to worry.
I didn't believe it. You know, Ken.
You don't throw away blood, big man. You don't just throw away blood.
Without being asked, Big Man John, a little awkwardly, takes hold of the baby.
I missed you, my man John.
Scene 6. A street of African compound houses. Kwaku has driven up to Madame Victoria's place in Big Man John's old car. He calls on Madame Victoria, who appears in a pretty kaba and head wrap. Kwaku is holding some brown paper bags of goods.
All sons must learn to come when called.
True. You can't fault John for resisting sometimes. That's what makes a man strong.
Plenty of time for boy to transform into man, yes. He has only just turned 13, Kwaku.
That's so. Yet he is so big in his short pants.
Are you colluding? All I've been hearing is now he wants long trousers. Says he looks like a fool at the good school.
Them fancy boys have girls to impress, huh?
My purse simply won't stretch to such luxuries at this time. Needs must. And there's plenty of good wear in the trousers he has now. John, get your young height out here now, or I will tan your ass here in front of Kwaku.
It's hard for a woman to raise a boy like John without a man in the house. He has so much energy. He must run you ragged sometimes.
He's a good boy, Kweku. No mother could ask for better.
Madame Victoria holds out her arms as the boy appears. John is dressed in short pants and a loose shirt. As Madame Victoria hugs him, John squirms. Madame Victoria kisses him where she can catch him as he frees himself. Taking the bags from Kweku, John loiters awkwardly.
So you want to talk to Kweku, do you? Take these into John the housekeeper and help him put them away before you come out here for your man talk time. You hear your mama?
I hear you, Mama. Over and out.
That boy's head is too full of nonsense. Half of the time, he thinks he's a pilot in the Second World War. And the rest of the time, he thinks he's Alexandra Dumas living in a garret in some far-off land. Hey, my boy is forever writing himself into his stories as the handsome, all-conquering hero. He wants to go and be a pilot with Ghana Airways. Hey, can you imagine such a thing? Kweku, all I want is for him to be a doctor or a lawyer, something respectable.
Perhaps a chemist like his father.
Kwame Nkrumah didn't dream of such bizarre things while he was away in England and America studying. No, sir. He kept his nose in his studies. John doesn't believe me, of course. John is just a puppy. How could he guess with all the changes that have taken place in the Gold Coast? Oh, or Ghana, I should say. The struggle for independence. Our own president. Even he is an Nzima, a black legislator too. This castle is certainly a different place now with the governor gone these past 3 years.
It's a wise fool who keeps his own counsel in these times. Talk of change and all, madame. The big man wants to come by and see you.
He does he?
I wanted to ask you before the boy comes back.
Wise move, I should say.
May he?
When does the commoner seek an audience with his queen?
Tonight.
What notice?
Suddenly, John returns grinning at his mother, who retires with good grace.
You two go about your man business. I have important dressmaking to attend to.
But what shall I tell our mutual friend?
You may tell him that he may attend without a linguist.
Thank you, Madame Victoria. Bring the boy by the shop soon, so that I may show you about some hospitality as a new chief chemist.
A chief at last, Kweku. How your heart must soar. You have achieved your heart's desire. Congratulations on your new appointment and the fulfillment of your greatest ambition. God has surely smiled upon you. Thanks be to God.
Madame Victoria and Kweku shake hands formally. As soon as his mother is safely indoors, John pulls a book out of his back pocket and offers it to Kweku.
You are late to attending this.
Sorry, Kweku-sa. It was just too interesting. The pictures are fantastic, but a lot of the engineering talk went zooming right over my head.
Does a pilot need to know such things?
Of course, Kweku. What if I was on a secret mission and my plane was shot down over the Sahara Desert and I had to mend it all by myself to get back in the air to deliver my documents safely into the hands of the president himself?
The good doctor and crewman will be proud of you.
It would be my duty as a Ghanaian citizen.
Well, citizen John, the New Republic would like all books to be returned on time.
Thank you for borrowing it for me, Kweku. Your boss is certainly kind to lend you his books. If I had a library, I don't think I would ever let anyone borrow a single one. Of course, my very best friends could stay with me and read them in my company. No foo-foo fingers or sticky mango thumbs allowed in my library.
They will dare not defy you, John. Especially by then you are bound to be wearing long trousers and carrying a gun.
Mama won't let me.
What? Carry a gun?
No, wear long trousers.
Her legs are as long as Zambezi is wide. Don't worry, John. Time passes swift enough.
You think so?
I know so. When you're as old as me, If you can even imagine that day, minutes pass by like seconds. Believe me, time will beat a whittle stick upon your back. Enjoy yourself, John John, before you are a man.
Scene 7. That evening. Madame Victoria's home. Big man John has arrived in his car. He has seated himself on a bench nearby. He lights a cigarette and blows his trademark smoke rings into the darkening sky. John John appears out of nowhere and pays the car a lot of attention. He hasn't noticed the figure seated under the baobab tree.
You like cars, son?
Sure do. In fact, anything with an engine makes my heart soar.
Well, you must be young.
How you mean?
Time will come, son, when it's creatures on two legs with pert tits that'll make your manhood rise majestic afore you. That's when you know you're a real man.
I like girls already.
Aye, but do they like you?
Some do.
I don't believe you. You know why? I don't believe you because there is nae lassie yet been born who likes a laddie in short pants. Well, your mammy no buy you a proper pair of trousers.
She says I am too young. I'm nearly 14. Anyway, we can't afford them. Not just yet.
Big man John shakes his head and taps the bench next to him. John John sits down beside the man who is his father.
Have you seen me round these parts before, son?
I was just wondering that myself, sir. I remember a brony, excuse me, sir, a foreigner who had a car, but it was definitely black. Not white like yours. A long time ago, there was a man, the same one maybe, who had a magnificent stallion. It was the color of gunmetal. A lot like your hair, in fact, sir. A beauty it was.
Has your mother taught you to ride, son?
Yes, sir. She is a wonderful horsewoman. Her grandfather taught her many things when she lived on Zulukope, our village out east.
I remember how she could outride me even on a lesser horse.
You know my mother then, sir?
Yes. A long time now.
You have come to visit her then? Oh, I must fetch her straight away or she will scold me. I apologize for detaining you.
There's no hurry, son. Let's sit here a while yet.
Big man John gets out his hip flask and takes a deep slug of whiskey.
You see, there's no poison. Here, that doesn't grow on trees in these parts, you know. Mind, you drank it like a trooper. You make your da proud.
Da?
You know, your father.
Oh, I don't have a father.
Oh, no. Everybody has a da somewhere or other. So what are you going to be when you grow up?
Mama wants me to be a doctor or lawyer.
Well, how know an Indian chief?
I want to be an explorer.
Well, what's left to explore?
Someplace nobody's ever been before. Maybe somewhere they will never go again.
Like the moon.
Who knows?
Madame Victoria attracts their attention and waves them over to the porch. Big man John takes her hand and kisses it, bowing deeply.
John, your mother is a magnificent specimen of womanhood. Now you take good care of her, son, you hear?
John, bring us some tea and a glass for Mr. John.
John goes into the house to fetch the tray.
I do not think I like to sound like a prize exhibit at the Abori Gardens.
To me, you will always be the most prized bloom in the tropics.
You could have taken better care of your hothouse flower.
Aye, Victoria. But the man hasn't been born yet that never made a mistake.
You speak the truth.
Son, if you look in the back of that car, there's a cardboard box. Will you bring it up here?
As John fetches it, Madame Victoria pours the tea and Big man John pours himself a half.
You like reading, son? You hear I brung these for you. I thought that they might amuse you, and I'm sure as hell that when you're done with them, you can swap them at school for all and sundry.
Thank you, sir. Is it all right if I keep them, Mama? Oh, please say yes. You see, Mr. John, Mama does not like me reading rubbish. She says it addles the brain.
You know fine well as Mr. John would say, that I cannot deny you nothing, John John. But the price on this occasion is a good night kiss.
Aye, Mama.
Say good night to our guests.
Good night, Mr. John. It was a pure pleasure to meet you. Thank you for the comics. They are most definitely the best present I have ever got.
John John goes into the house, dropping and picking up the comics as he goes.
You have made the boy very happy, but not as happy as he would have been if you had told him the truth.
The truth is an expensive luxury, Victoria. I tell him now when it's too late for me to spend any time with him. And the time has come for us to leave.
The time has come for you two to leave. We two remain. Is that not so, my man John?
Big man John putting one arm around her shoulder to comfort her.
Here, woman. This is for you. Some money to get yourself something nice. And here's a bit extra. For the love of Mike, get the boy some long trousers.
For the sake of propriety, my man John.
Aye, something like that.
Big man John drinks his whiskey. Madam Victoria her tea. We hear John John laugh at the comics. Scene 8. Takoradi Air Force Station. You can hear the Atlantic Ocean crash against the castle ramparts and the background noise of a busy town. The year is 1969.
You are such a pretty boy, but so much wilder than your brother, the good reverend.
Why do you always have to compare us? He has taken his road. I have to make my own way in this world.
His path of righteousness is walking in the footsteps of our Lord Jesus Christ. Where will your steps lead you, John John? That is simply all I want to know. That is what all mothers here today want to know of their beloved son.
Their beloved sons, but what of you, Mama? Have you no pride in your younger son's honor in winning the Speedbird Trophy?
True, you did well. But what use is flying up high in the sky in aeroplane if it does not bring you closer to the Almighty?
You talk of God as if he is your husband.
Watch your tongue, John John. Remember, God hears all we ever say and reads all we ever think.
There is no escaping destiny then.
Come and be saved.
The only one who can save me is myself. In any case, Mama, if there is a God, I think the Supreme Being would expect mankind to take care of itself. That is possibly why we are here, to fend for ourselves.
I brought you into this world to do good.
You brought me into this world for true. You hold me in your belly till I burst out of the pod like breadfruit bursting on the ground, but I was cocoa-colored, Mama. Not coffee-rich like that brother of mine. You made me different before I was even breathing air. Why did you do that, Ma?
God's work is not to be questioned. We each have our cross to bear.
Is that what I am to you? Stigmata?
No. I love you, John John. My children are my most precious possessions.
I am going to find him, Mama.
God is all around us, John John. Just give up your heart to him.
No, Mama.
Our Father, who art in heaven.
I must meet my blood father.
There is no need for you to go anywhere. You have already met him.
I don't mean looking in the mirror when I shave.
God Almighty, give me strength. JJ, when you were born, I took him to you to acknowledge you. Do you know what he did? He turned us away like lepers. He had Kweku do his dirty business for him, bringing us this and that at his whim, just so he could keep us hooked on the end of his line.
But you must have loved him once.
And I love him still. Occasionally, he would come by to keep me company, always at his convenience. Then he went away, forever. Went away to Scotland. He never wrote, he never called, he never inquired after us ever again. Don't you remember the brony who came by our place when you had just turned 13? He gave you hard liquor on the sly, as I recall.
I don't remember you introducing me to any man as his son.
Look, I know that you are hungry for life, but there's no need to leave this place. Ghana is as worthy a canvas on which to paint your destiny as any land. Believe me, JJ, it is too hard in them far place for a black man.
Look, Mama, I will just go to Europe for a few weeks.
Where would you stay? You don't know anybody there?
No, but Cindy does.
Not that white girl, JJ. Not the hippie.
Cindy is cool.
Don't make the same mistakes as me, my son. They don't think like us. They throw away blood as if it were used disinfectant. You told me you had a girl here who loves you. That funny little skinny thing you met at Achimota.
She is different.
She might be different, but at least she is Ghanaian. Give body strength. I'd rather you married Ashanti than Brownie. Don't turn your back on us both. And what about our country? Does Ghana mean nothing to you?
I will soon be back, Mama. Don't fret. I could bring you perfume from Paris. Yeah, you would like that, wouldn't you? And a fine big bottle of whiskey from Scotland.
I forbid you to go anywhere until you have taken up your commission.
I am not a child, Mama.
You are my child, John. Eternally my son.
Scene 9. Dumfries, Scotland. JJ arrives on foot at Big Man John's detached suburban house. JJ wears an army surplus overcoat. The year is 1972. Bonnie and JJ go into the cosy front room, which has some Ghanaian knickknacks scattered around, carved elephants and the like, and some photos on a dresser.
You sit here and I'll bring in the tea. I'll not be a minute. The kettle's always warming on the stove in this house.
Just like in my mother's home.
Aye, lad, that's right. Lipton tea here and Lipton's tea there, eh? Do you take milk? Oh, as luck would have it, I've got some condensed.
No problem, Mrs. John. Fresh milk is fine. Don't go to any trouble.
Oh, it's not every day I see a friendly face from Ghana now, is it?
Bonnie goes off without waiting for a reply.
Wow. That must be Jamestown in the 40s. There's the chemist shop my father used to run. The one in Kingsway, Kweku, Lord's over now. No picture of the great white man himself, though. That must be Mrs. John. She was not much of a looker, was she?
Bonnie bustles in with a tray full of teacups and biscuits and a big pot of tea.
You're looking at the 40s. There are plenty more where they come from. Mr. John has dozens of albums full of them. I'm sure he'd be glad to get them out to show you when he comes home from his work.
He's not here then, not at this very moment.
No. And he'll not be home for lunch today either. He's working too far out. Just a couple of miles up the main road. He's a locum. That means he's on call to stand in when the shop needs a dispensing chemist or a spare pair of hands. He gets around the place, which is good for him. He was never a man for being in one place for too long. That said, though, he served his time in Ghana. 30 years with the United Africa Company, and you'll never guess what. Well, the Queen herself gave him an MBE. I went with him to London to collect it from Queen Elizabeth herself. We knew Prince Philip, of course, from Ghana, him being a Mason and all. Aye, what a day that was. I was so proud of my darling. He served the crown and his country well. Made sacrifices. We both did. It was terrible, you know. Us women had to come back in times of war or confinement. Though it didn't apply to me. When the other wives fell due, they invariably set sail home to have the baby here. Especially the first time.
So, Mrs. John, it's a fete day outside, even if it would freeze the balls off a brass monkey, as they might say in these parts. I could walk out to meet Mr. John at the shop, don't you think?
Aye. Well, that's no a bad idea. You could catch the number 7 bus, mind. At least from the stop by the humpback bridge on the hour. There's plenty of time yet. Wait here a minute. I'll give him a ring. What did you say your name was again?
Rawlings, Flight Officer J.J. Rawlings. Tell him he sent Kweku on errands to our compound.
Oh, Kweku. How is he? A bonny man, a very bonny man. Oh, no pun intended. Eat up that shortbread or it'll go fusty.
Bonnie goes over to a phone and calls her husband at the chemist's. We don't really hear what she says.
That's sorted. He's expecting you by and by. Come back for your dinner, mind. Off you go. He won't be happy if you miss the bus.
Scene 10. A wee village outside Dumfries. The chemist shop is smaller but reminiscent of the shop in Jamestown, all dark wood and glittering glass. As the bell rings and the door opens, we recognise big man John, older now and a little stooped, but still debonair.
Yes. How can I help you, sir?
Mrs. John sent me, sir.
You looking for big man John, son?
Yes, sir.
That's an awful shame, son. You just missed him. His car must have passed you even. He's been called away to Wigton.
Wigton.
Aye. For a 3-day stint. The dispensing chemist that usually runs it's been called away. To a funeral.
A funeral. He has traveled. He was called away on business. He didn't even wait to see me.
Scene 11. Osu Castle. Spotlight follows JJ, the retiring president, as he moves round the stage. The year is 2001.
It was later, well after the event that I realized that it was actually him stood there in the shop, standing there, smacking like a fat hawk, playing with me still, as if I was a piece of putty. I suppose that was what I was to him. Something molded from his son's soul and my mother's milk. An invention, like the loveless monster in Frankenstein. Nameless. The boy that I was then, although I thought myself a man, of course, had traveled so far to see him. Yet he would only give me that moment in his day. Incognito, standing there, safe behind his counter. I wish I had hit him smack in the kisser. Perhaps he was the better father figure, telling me something I could use in his life. Junior Jesus! That is what my supporters called me when I came to power. My mother had baptized me Jerry Rawlings John, which suited me fine. But when I joined the cadets, they said they couldn't go calling me John on the parade ground. Sounded too familiar. So Rawlings it was. Jerry John Rawlings, His Excellency, the President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. JJ. Just call me JJ. Junior Jesus. You can imagine Madame Victoria's despair. She still prays for my soul every day. Perhaps all mothers do for their children.
What do most fathers do? Piss on their progeny. Mine certainly did.
Lighting up a nice big Havana cigar, JJ then pours himself a large Russian vodka.
It's nice to have revolutionary friends in high places. 2 decades I led this country. Under military and civilian rule, even my worst enemies admit I led from the front. I never hid behind any counter like a lizard under a stone. Go back, you Scots bastard. Opposition banners I've read in my time. I thought about it, minds, just in my head. Vivid fantasies of a fancy-free childhood. Just hunting, fishing, and shooting. I thought every child in Scotland lived like that.
When my father died, my sister, that is my younger sister, you know, the one by the other woman, she wanted to hold a traditional wake for him. Can you imagine? I told her she could have it without me.
Still, it's not good for the spirit to speak ill of the dead or rattle the ancestors' bones, so I'll say this for him. He bought me my first pair of long pants, it transpired. There couldn't have been all bad in the man now, could there? That he thrice denied me surely consoles my mother, don't you think? Made me the better man.
Funny how as you get older, the past becomes more vivid. I remember now the horses you used to ride to our house and the cars. As it happened, I did go back to my father's land.
I even gave a speech once in the Scottish Parliament. They hated me, of course. Called me black bastard. Not to my face, of course. Plus ça change, eh?
Or as the Ga proverb goes, the monkey says his mother's mouth is too big. Otherwise, he would be too pretty. Slange.